Hello, I'm Michael Marsh. Welcome to the program dedicated to reestablishing constitutional government. Now, the Constitution's on the books, and every politically elected official and a whole lot of unelected officials, they raise their right hand and swear to uphold the Constitution. Many of them don't. That's why I'm doing this program, and I'll bring in various people that are running for office. Today I'm bringing in Mark Callahan, who is the Republican candidate for the United States Senate. And that way you know where the person stands and if you want to vote for them or not. Mark, I just mentioned the Constitution, so let's start out there.
Sure.
Where do you stand on the United States Constitution? First off, have you read it? Some of them I haven't even read.
I have read it. I have read it. And actually, I've been getting a lot of use out of it, actually. This is my original one that I had. Little cover's coming off it a little bit, but I use it fairly frequently, and I carry it with me everywhere I go. And so, yes, I am very familiar with it, and I do support it 100%.
That's good. Your opponent, Ron Wyden, he wants to take away our guns.
Mm-hmm.
Hillary Clinton says she's not going to abolish the Second Amendment, which gives us the right to bear arms, have guns. But she says she's going to bring in, quote, reasonable controls.
Yeah, we've all heard that here before,
Yeah.
especially in Oregon. And I mean, that's just the nature of evil, and what they refer to as progressivism, I refer to it as evil, though. But I mean,
Yeah.
basically, the way I see she wants to do it is basically supporting up to like 3 to 5 Supreme Court judges that are going to basically reverse the Heller decision, and it's going to weaken our Second Amendment rights. And we can't let her do that because the Supreme Court goes well beyond any kind of 4 or 8 year term with any president in there. Supreme Court is a lifetime appointment, as you know.
Yeah.
So if we get like a majority liberal agenda going in there with her Supreme Court, if she gets in there, I hope she doesn't get in there.
Yeah.
But if heck freezes over and she gets in there and she appoints these hard lefty, progressive, communist, evil people to the Supreme Court, they're in there for life. And especially if they're young folks like me. I'm 39 years old. If she appoints somebody like that, then they're in there for the next 40 years. That affects my daughters.
Yeah.
I have 2 daughters myself. And that affects their kids too.
Yeah.
And all this liberal agenda, all this gun regulation stuff that goes against the Constitution is going to be in there for the next 30, 40 years if that happens. We can't let that happen.
But talking about the courts, okay, now only the U.S. Supreme Court is in the Constitution.
Yep.
The others are courts, district courts, tax courts, circuit courts. They're all created by Congress.
Mm-hmm.
And even the Supreme Court, the Constitution says, it doesn't say they're in there for life. They're in there for good behavior.
Yeah.
And if they're disobeying the Constitution, and most of them have,
Yep.
at every level, why isn't Congress holding them accountable?
Because Congress currently doesn't have the guts to do it. I mean, just like they don't have the guts to impeach that idiot president of ours, And I mean, they need to start growing a pair. Honestly,
Yeah.
I'll just put it bluntly. They need to start growing a pair, And they're not doing it. And when they don't do it, it basically degrades and corrupts the checks and balances that our country was founded upon. Yeah. And they need to start doing their job. I mean, that's why Congress's approval rating is so low right now, because they're not doing their job. People are getting frustrated with them because they're not doing their job. And most of them they get back. There's a few good ones, but I mean, a lot of them get back there. They get sucked into that bubble back there in Washington, D.C., that's surrounded by the Beltway. I mean, it's not something I'm going to get sucked into myself because I don't believe in getting sucked in. I've actually lived in the Washington, D.C. metro area before, and I know what it is back there, And they get sucked into this bubble, and they get basically washed over with all this corruption and stuff like this, and the fact that they can't actually stand up for anything. You know, we need people, we need hardworking Americans like myself and like yourself that can go back there with ideas that we can implement, not just talk. You know, people are just tired of the talking. They want to see action is what they want to see. They don't want to see any talking anymore. They don't want to see people blowing them off. They want to see action, and that's what they want to see.
Yeah, that's a major part of why Donald Trump is the Republican nominee. I mean, he was not my first choice. He would not have been my first choice. In fact, he wouldn't have been in the top 5.
Well, as you know, I was a Ted Cruz fan myself.
Yeah.
I was the co-chairman of his campaign here in Oregon prior to the primary. And my campaign manager, Arlena Duke, was the state chairman for the Cruz campaign in Oregon. Unfortunately, Ted did drop out prior to the primary, and Donald Trump is now our nominee for president. And he's our last and best chance, basically, to stop Hillary and from getting in there. Because, as I said, he wasn't my first choice, but I have made a pledge and I have made a promise to who I represent or who I plan to represent, that I will back the nominee, and that nominee is Donald Trump. So,
Now, the United States has 19 trillion and counting debt.
yep.
Is that a good thing, bad thing? And if you're a U.S. Senator, what would you do about it?
Well, we need to balance the budget. For one, I mean, 19 trillion is actually a bad thing because it's basically living on a credit card. I mean, most people can relate to that in terms of living on a credit card. You know,
I'd like to have a $19 trillion credit card.
yeah, that's crazy money. But the Bank of China or whoever's bankrolling our U.S. government nowadays is basically putting their credit card out there, and we're living on our credit card. And $19 trillion of debt just does not represent fiscal responsibility. We need to be able to live within our means. I mean, the American people here in Oregon and all over across this U.S. or across the United States, we live within our means. We know what's in our checkbook. We know how much we can spend in that checkbook.
And we know that they're not going to let us spend over that.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't just go out there to Cabela's or something like that, you know, and say, well, I want to buy $19 trillion worth of fishing gear or $19 trillion worth of hunting rifles. You know, we can't do that. You know, but the U.S. government has gotten out there and they've overspent, and we need to get it back in line, and we need to start with a balanced budget amendment so we can, going forward, we can actually have a balanced budget amendment, and then we need to have a plan in place and actually implement and take action on that plan to pay down that $19 trillion.
Are there any federal agencies that you would like to eliminate altogether, or would you just take a little bit from each, or both?
Well, as you know, Michael, our country was founded upon limited government. So there's several agencies out there. I mean, for example, Department of Energy is one. You know, I think that, you know, that's not really something that we need to be putting a lot of money into. For example, also the EPA. EPA is a rogue agency. I mean, they're going out there, they're making their own laws, you know, making it up as they go, and they're twisting and corrupting things like the Endangered Species Act, or like the Clean Air Act, and they're attacking people that have private land, and they're a rogue agency. They need to go. There's other agencies out there that also have gone rogue, and we need to have a serious conversation. And hopefully, as I said, we'll get a conservative president in there that'll actually say you're fired, you know, and eliminate the agencies. I mean, I guess that's part of the appeal of Donald Trump, is that he gets in there and he's ran a business before, and so he's willing to actually pony up and say you're fired, you know, and it closes down. So we need someone in there that is able to do that, and is able to cut the size of government, limit the size of government, to get it back the way it was founded.
BLM, they've had a couple of confrontations here in the West. January they had one here in Oregon, and last year one in Nevada. That made these two made the national news. There's probably been a few others that didn't make the national news.
Yeah.
54, or it's over 50% of Oregon is controlled by the federal government. should the federal government keep that land? I know Ron Wyden thinks all of Oregon should be a national park, but should the federal government keep that land, or should they give it back to
They should give
people
it
of
back to
Oregon?
the counties. I mean, I'm against that monument. I've been reading about that. I think it's called the Owie Monument. I may be pronouncing it wrong. Yeah, I'm against that. I mean, I know our governor, Corrupt Kate, has basically come out in support of that, and Ron Wyden won't answer the question with a straight answer, from what I've been reading about anyway. So, but I'm against that monument. We need to give that back to the counties, because Oregon was once a very rich place in terms of timberland. We would cut down the trees, we would replant. That's the key here, and that will satisfy the environmentalists. As long as we replant, there are replanting and reforestation laws in Oregon in place where we have to replant. And so as long as we cut down the trees, we replant them, and then we're able to mill the logs here in Oregon, that'll bring revenue into the counties, which will in turn build up local economies, which in turn will build up local schools. The other side is all the time taking about, oh, it's about the kids. Well, don't tie our hands here. You know, if we can have the money from the logs that'll build up local economies, we'll have the money for the kids. We'll have the money for the schools. We need to get out there and do better forest management. That's what we need to do, or be able to do it without having our hands tied by the far left-wing environmentalists.
And the federal government, when they were going to close down, and they wanted to decide they were going to close down the logging here in Oregon, they promised to pay the counties, and they're not doing it. So, you know,
Exactly. I mean, right now we're living on government welfare, and you know, I mean, you have the ONC Land Act that's not being enforced. You have Secure Rural Schools that's going to be running out here in about 3 or 4 years for different counties. I was just down in Douglas County the other day, and they were talking about I was talking to a county commissioner down there, and she's retiring, and she was saying that the Secure Rural Schools money and the government welfare money for these counties is running out. Then they're going to be SOL basically, and they don't know what to do because they can't chop down the trees because of the environmentalists and the spotted owl, you know, whatever, and the welfare, government welfare of the counties is running out in the form of like the Secure Rural Schools funding. So what are they going to do? You know, and they're going to be basically, as they're going to be out of luck. Josephine County is decimated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to people from Josephine County. Josephine County is decimated. They used to be a
lived in
very
Josephine.
vibrant county. Coos County used to be a very vibrant county. You know what's happened? You know they're decimating.
Yeah, I lived in Josephine County when I was in my 20s, and you know, it was a thriving little community. I lived there right outside of Grants Pass, and my sister still lives there, and she said, if one job opens up, there's 500 people trying to get it.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And not that many jobs open up. And it's really crazy down there. And they wonder why they can't get any money.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people feel frustrated. That's why Donald Trump won the primary. You know, people are frustrated. You know, what can be done? What can we do to make get the government to actually listen to the people, or can we?
Well, we need to get some fresh blood in there.
Yeah.
I mean, not to feather my own nest here, but I am running for U.S. Senate. I'm 39 years old. Ron Wyden, my opponent, has been in there since I was 4 years old. Yeah. And so I figure it's time for him to go. I mean, he's been
never done on-stage work.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he hasn't actually run a business. He worked for a nonprofit back in I believe the 70s is what it was. But he hasn't actually run a business. He doesn't know what actually it takes to do that and run an economy and make an economy better. So he needs to go. He's a 35-year career politician. He's a New Yorker. He doesn't even really live in Oregon anymore. He's a New Yorker. He'll deny it, you know, and say, oh well, it's just his wife's home. Well, yeah, you don't even live here. He may have a home here. He may have a physical address.
I'm sure he does.
But yeah, I mean, we have people out there that are investigating that too. You know, I mean, does his trash get picked up? You know, does he pay his electric bills and stuff like that? You know, it's little things like that. If it can be proven that he's not actually living here, then I mean, we pretty much nail him to the wall on that one. So
Now he's a strong supporter of these trade bills. You know,
Oh, yeah.
supported NAFTA. He put the Trans-Pacific Partnership on fast track.
Yep.
Where do you stand on these trade agreements?
I'm against them. Just in a nutshell, I'm against them. Basically, TPP, or Trans-Pacific Partnership, is NAFTA on steroids. And it's not something we need in this country right now, especially when we know the effects of NAFTA but from back in the 90s. Right now we need American jobs. We need to put America first. And we need to get American workers back to work here in the United States, as opposed to exporting our jobs overseas. And TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, is going to export our jobs overseas to the Asia-Pacific Rim. And we need those jobs here, and we need those jobs here now. That's one thing that I actually relate to. I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative. But I also I've been talking to some of the Bernie supporters. Bernie supporters are against the TPP also, so that's something we have in common. Basically, the way I see it as a candidate, I'm representing all of Oregon here. You know, I am a Republican, I am a conservative, but I'm representing all of Oregon. And so, in a nutshell, is basically say there's a problem like the TPP, right? There's different ways of solving that problem. There's the Republican way, there's the Democrat way, there's the Green Party way, there's the independent way. Well, the thing is, the political parties, they spend so much time fighting each other around the problem that they don't actually attack the problem and find a solution. So that's where I come in. Basically, I'm the type of person to solve problems. I'm an IT guy by trade. I've been doing computer work for about 16 years. So I'd much rather solve the problems than deal with like inter-office politics that distract from solving the problem. So I'm willing to work with other people to solve the problem as long as their goal is to solve the problem.
Now, here in Oregon, Kate Brown, our beloved governor, and the trade unions, the government unions, have decided that the best way to solve Oregon's financial problems is gross receipts tax on businesses that make a certain amount of money. Yep. If I'm not mistaken, if I understand Hillary correctly, she wants to do basically the same thing at the federal level. And Bernie, all these people, Democrats. Mm-hmm. Where would you stand on this issue?
I'm against IP28, or I guess they renamed it to Ballot Measure 97.
Yeah.
I know Corrupt Kate, that's what I refer to her as. I know she's our governor, unelected governor at that. And I really hope Bud Pierce gets it in terms of beating her. But basically, I'm against IP28, or I'm against what's now called Measure 97. IP28 or Measure 97 is basically a tax upon a tax upon a tax. I was explaining this to a coworker earlier today, and she's against it now too, and she's a Bernie supporter. So, or she was a Bernie supporter. So basically what IP28, my understanding of it is that it goes all the way through the distribution cycle. It starts out at the manufacturer or the creator of the good or the service, right? And then when they sell it to a wholesaler, they have to add a certain amount of tax on it. And then when that wholesaler sells it to a retailer, they have to add a certain amount of tax on it. Well, I mean, the other side, the progressives, or what I refer to as communists, or socialists, whatever they want to call themselves now, they changed their names so many
really
times.
not communists or socialists. There's a big difference in the two. There's never been a communist government.
Well, yeah, but
there have been a whole lot
they
of
call
socialists.
themselves progressives, but it's highly regressive also.
Oh, yeah.
But basically, the way I understand the IP28 or Measure 97 is a tax upon a tax upon a tax. And they're basically doing it. From what I understand on their side, I look at both sides of the story. My grandfather taught me that when I was growing up. I look at both sides of the story, and they're doing it basically to punish the big corporations to get them to pay their fair share. Well, what they don't realize is they're not punishing the big corporations because, and that's the faulty of their logic, And basically because the corporations are just going to tack that tax on to the final price that comes to the consumer. So ultimately the consumer is the one that's paying for all of it, and the consumer is the one that's being hurt with rising prices and inflation.
And also, in order to survive the tax, because it's a gross tax, it's not a profit tax.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a lot of people are going to lose their jobs because of it, and that means these people are going to need government help. And where's that coming from?
Which grows the size of government,
Yeah.
and in order to grow the size of government, you have to increase taxes, and no
Yeah.
one wants increased taxes. I can tell you that. I actually want to decrease the size of taxes. I want to be able to do my taxes on a postcard, and I think that's a good, simple plan for people across the U.S. to be able to simplify the tax code. We simplify the tax code. We cut out all this cronyism that's going on, these loopholes and stuff like that. I mean, we keep some good stuff in there, like the child deduction and the mortgage deduction and stuff like that, but and the marriage deduction.
Well,
But
right now, the tax code is what? Federal tax code is
Yep.
something like 80,000 pages. 85,000.
something like that, some obscene number like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to cut that down. You know, so and I mean, I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and I know the House of Representatives has the power of the purse. So. U.S. Senate basically advises and consent on treaties, for example.
Yeah.
That's one of the things they do. So we need to get some good congressmen in there too. I know Art Robbins is running. I know Colm Willis is running. I know Brian Hendricks running, and I know that. I don't know if there's anybody running in against Blumenauer this time, but yeah, Blumenauer needs to go. He's been in there forever as well. But I know Colm and Brian and Art are good folks, and I've seen him out there on the campaign trail as well as the other statewide candidates like Jeff Goodman and Dennis Richardson and Bud Pierce. I've seen them out on the trail also. So
Yeah.
we kind of share events once in a while, and that's we just get along out there. So
Okay, now, I've heard Colm Willis's advertisements. He mentions that a lot of people go back to Washington and they kind of forget about us.
oh yeah.
You're not going to do that, are you?
No. My kids live out here, and I'm going to be back. I'm going to be back out here at least once a week, if not more. Obviously, when Congress is not in session. But I love my kids. I have two daughters, Heather and Sarah. They've been in the past. They've helped me out on the campaign trail. One of them runs the video camera, and the other one hands out my literature. I pay them in Dairy Queen blizzards. They seem to be content with that. You know, I know Heather likes the French silk pie, and I think Sarah likes the strawberry shortcake or something like that, or cheesecake or something. But so I love my kids, and I need to see my kids. I want to hug my kids goodnight, and so I'm going to be coming back here to Oregon very, very frequently. So I'm not going to forget about Oregonians.
Yeah,
so.
I've seen you with your kids several events.
Yep.
Yeah. In fact, they've been here, not on the program, but they've been
Yep.
in the studio
watching
watching Dad.
Yeah,
do
they're
it.
good kids. They're 12 and 13 right now, and so I'm getting a little bit of gray hair up here. You know, and I covered up with the hair gel a little bit, but I'm getting a little gray hair. It's getting kind of thin, but I'm 39 years old. You know, and I think one of them is focusing on their hair right now, and one of them kind of has an acne issue going on. But yeah, they're good kids though. So.
Okay, we've got about 4.5 minutes left. Is there anything that you wanted to say that you haven't actually had a chance to say yet?
Well, I'm gathering signatures for my voter's guide statement. I got to get 500 signatures for my voter's guide statement. About halfway there right now. Or pay the Secretary of State $3,000, which is not something I want to do. So I'm gathering signatures for my voter's guide statement. I also have an app out there right now. My campaign invested in an app. It's called U Campaign, the letter U and then the word campaign. They can download that from the Google Play Store or the Google or iPhone store, I guess it is. And we're basically trying to build our grassroots army. And then we're also donations, or we need some funding. My FEC report just came out, and Ron Wyden has about millions of dollars, and I don't have that. So I really need some help in terms of fundraising. because we need to buy radio ads for the fall. We need to buy TV ads for the fall. I've been doing county fair season. I've visited about 8 different county fairs. Had an excellent bacon-wrapped corn dog the other day at the Washington County Fair. It was excellent. And I like anything bacon-wrapped is good. Yeah. But so I've been doing county fairs. I've been doing parades. I'm going to be doing the Vernonia parade tomorrow, which is the, I guess tomorrow is the 6th of August, isn't it? Yeah. But so we've been getting out there. I need to pay for gas, obviously. Just visit the website, CallahanForOregon.com. That's CallahanFororegon.com. And if people can help us out, that's what we have going right now. And we definitely need to remove Ron Wyden from office.
It's interesting, you know, people say that the Republicans are the money people and the Democrats are the working people.
Yeah.
Ron Wyden's got what, $7 million?
Yeah, he is the 1%. You know, I mean, so if you want to break it down to the 99% versus the 1%, you know, he is the 1%. His people fight against the 1%, from what I hear, and so they need to start fighting against him because he is the 1%. You know, he's a hypocrite if he says he's not. Yeah. So I mean, he has a $7.5 million home in New York City with 5 marble fireplaces and some sort of a elaborate rooftop deck. You know, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I live in a 2-bedroom East Portland apartment for about $1,000 a month. And yeah, he's been in office for 35 years, so that means he actually got rich or more wealthier when he got into office. And I'm thinking that's not what you should be doing. So
well, I think from what I've heard, he didn't have any money when he went into office.
Yeah.
And now he's a multimillionaire.
Now he's a multimillionaire. Yeah, he is the 1%. Yeah, exactly. So Democrats out there that are listening to this video, you need to vote against Ron Wyden because he is that 1%. So
yeah. A lot of these trade deals are really taking away our sovereignty, and the borders are being overrun, and they're being allowed to be overrun.
Yep.
What would you do about immigration problem?
In terms of immigration, well, I'm on the Oregonian Immigration Reform Board. I fought tirelessly along with the board and other members of the state of Oregon, or not government Oregon, but I mean people around the state of Oregon, in terms of fighting against Measure 88. Measure 88, as you know, would have given driver's license to illegals. We're actually promoting a new slogan for Oregonian Immigration Reform. We have the "Build the Wall" buttons, and so we're kind of focused on that. It's the "Build the Wall" button. And you can go to OregonIR.org to get one of your Build the Wall buttons, or come to our upcoming meeting here on the 13th. And we support building the wall, and we need to start enforcing it. Build the Wall isn't just a physical wall. It basically means enforcing our immigration policy. So when someone wears a Build the Wall button, then it's not just wall. It's the wall and enforcing existing law that is currently not being enforced.
And many of these trade deals also take away our sovereignty.
Yep.
And I assume you're going to be voting against these?
I'll be voting against them, because they do take away our sovereignty, and we need to retain our sovereignty if we're going to be a free nation.
Okay, and we are out of time, and I want to thank you for coming on the program again.
Sounds good. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.